Okay, so far we've talked about how goals need to be specific. They need to answer who, what, where, and why. They need to be measurable. We put a number on them to gauge our progress towards them, to know when we've accomplished them. And they need to be relevant. They need to connect to our overall purpose or what we're trying to achieve. Next, we're going to talk about how goals need to be ambitious. Uh, by ambitious, I mean challenging but realistic. If you make goals that are too easy, they're not motivating enough. People will not put energy into them. And if you make goals that are too difficult, people get frustrated and they quit. So let me give you an example of what I mean. Say I'm really invested in the health of my students and I want to motivate them to get healthier. So I'm going to offer 5 points of extra credit if my students can run a 40-minute mile by the end of the semester because I want them to start working out and get in better shape. Obviously, this probably isn't going to motivate anyone. Most of my students can already run a 40-minute mile, so they're not going to put energy into getting better. It's not motivating to them. On the other hand, if I were to offer 5 points of extra credit to run a 4-minute mile by the end of the semester, that's too difficult. That's too challenging. There's few students in my class who are even physically capable of doing that, who are willing to put in the massive amount of time and effort it would take to do that. So because it is so challenging, they put no effort into it, into that one either. So if a goal is too easy, people don't put effort into it. If a goal is too hard, they quit before they start. Now, if I were to offer 5 points of extra credit for students that can run a 7 minute and 30-second mile by the end of the semester, that might actually motivate some people. That's probably faster than many of my students can run a mile, so it's motivating in that it's ambitious, it's challenging. However, it's also realistic that pretty much any adult, if they put the time and the effort into it, are physically capable of running a 7 minute and 30-second mile. So you have to find that sweet spot. If you make the goal too easy, people aren't going to put effort in. If you make the goal too hard, people are not going to put effort in. That being said, if you shoot for the moon, you land in the stars, right? Super cheesy saying, but the idea here is that if you have to err on the side of being too ambitious or not ambitious enough, err on the side of being ambitious. It's much better to have people work really hard and come up short than to have people achieve their goals without putting all of their effort into it. The point of goals is to get people to get maximum effort. And so you can only do that by setting ambitious goals. Okay, so we got specific, measurable, ambitious, relevant, and very last but not least, we have time bound. Even though it's last, even though it's a very simple thing to do, putting a deadline on your goal is one of the most important things. Every day we wake up and we decide what we're going to do, and that decision is often based on what is most urgent, on what is due next. And if you don't put a deadline on something, then people always kick it to the bottom of the to-do list. So by putting a deadline on it, you put urgency to it, and you force people to actually put effort into achieving the goal. So here's our original goal, and we can put a deadline on this, and we can just say, hey, we're going to create our database by January 1st at 5 p.m. That's all you have to do. And be very specific about your deadline. January 1st, 5 p.m. That's our deadline. That's what we need this to be complete. And that is SMART goals. So we talked about how SMART goals should be specific. That is, they should answer who, what, where, and why. They should be measurable. So we put a number on it so that we can gauge progress towards our goal and we know when we have achieved it. They should be ambitious, so challenging enough to inspire people to put effort in, but not so difficult that people get frustrated. They should be relevant, so they contribute to our overall purpose. And they should be time bound. They need a deadline. The way to judge if you have done a good job with SMART goals is that you should be able to hand off your SMART goals to another person, and they should know exactly what is expected of them, exactly what you want them to do. And if we look at our first SMART goal here, we will create a database. That's super vague. If I gave that to 20 different people, I would get 20 different databases. On the other hand, our final goal, our SMART goal, is we will create a database of 10 profit, 10 not-for-profit, and 10 government organizations in Marin that includes email, physical address, and phone number to target for marketing survey response by January 1st at 5 p.m. I can give that to 20 different people, and there will be slight differences between the data sets, but overall, I'm going to get a lot of overlap. Everyone has very clear understanding of what my expectations are. And that is the goal when we are setting goals for ourselves, when we are coordinating with our teammates, and when we're delegating tasks to other people. Our goal is to set very clear expectations for them. Very quickly, there are two different types of goals. There are outcome-oriented goals and process-oriented goals. Outcome-oriented goals focus on a desired level of achievement. So this is where you want to be at the end of the project. So I will run a 7 minute and 30-second mile by January 1st. That is an outcome-oriented goal. I'm focusing on the level of achievement I want. There are process-oriented goals, which focus on how that level of achievement will be reached. So instead of saying I will run a 7 minute and 30-second mile by January 1st, I'll say I'll run 3 miles 3 times a week between now and January 1st. And it's not about that final performance outcome, it's about how you get there. It's the difference between saying I want to learn to play this song on a piano and I'm going to practice piano this often. I'm not going to delve deeply into when you should use which goals very quickly. Basically, you want to use outcome-oriented goals when you have very competent, motivated, experienced followers or whoever's trying to achieve the goal. So if you have faith that they can do it on their own, let them do it on their own. Tell them what you expect of them and then let them figure out how to do it. If you have people with less experience or less knowledge or less motivation, then you can use process-oriented goals, and that will help break down the overall goal into smaller parts. It will help them understand not just what is expected of them, but how to achieve what is expected of them. So very briefly, that is SMART goals. They are specific, they are measurable, they are ambitious, they are relevant, and they are time bound. By using SMART goals, we're better able to set personal goals for ourselves, better able to coordinate amongst team members, and better able to delegate to the people that we work with because we're giving them clear expectations of performance so that they're able to focus their effort into achieving that level of performance. Thanks for listening.